So I will start my class today, and today I will be talking about the origin of life. With this, I'll share my screen. So what you need to study is the origin of life. On one hand, you have the chemical basis that is known as chemogeny, and the other side is the biological origin of life, and that is biogeny. So it is a scientific problem which is not yet completely solved, although we have some hints on what this is. So there are plenty of ideas, but there are very few facts. And so life today evolved by common descent from a single primitive form. So that is, they say that the life has evolved from common descent. One gives rise to the other. So they have all got a single lineage back to one original old organism, ancestral primitive animal. So it is assumed that life arose about 3.9 billion years ago. So there are certain components that they say that there is the RNA world hypothesis. They say that RNA came first, and then you have the uh, uh, protein world hypothesis, where they say that protein came first. So several theories came, but the first concrete theory was given by the Oparin-Haldane theory, that is the hot dilute soup theory. The it was basically Oparin and JBS Haldane. They gave this particular idea, and they in 1923. And what was it? It was the pattern component. The first thing was the pattern component. That is increasingly complex carbon-containing molecules formed in the atmosphere and oceans of the ancient Earth. So containing components, they were formed, and then because of the process components, the radiant and kinetic energy converted into chemical energy in the bonds of large molecules. So essentially, in the reducing atmosphere of the Earth, where hydrogen was predominant, it was not oxidizing then. In that atmosphere, presence of lightning and hot thermal springs, certain carbon component molecules, like the first molecules which were formed were containing compounds like formaldehyde and hydrogen cyanide, HCHO and HCN. Then these small molecules, they react, forming sugars, amino acids, and nitrogenous bases in the prebiotic soup. So first, components like formaldehyde and hydrogen cyanide, and these molecules interacted in the reducing atmosphere and formed molecules like sugars, amino acids, and nitrogenous bases. And then these small molecules of this in this prebiotic soup, it was one common soup like structure, the former vent lake like structure, and in that all these things started to take place. So the small molecules which were formed in the prebiotic soup, they came together to form nucleic acid, proteins, and long carbohydrate chains. Then suddenly a single molecule acquires the ability to self-replicate, becoming the first living entity and marking the end of chemical evolution and beginning of biological evolution. So the chemical evolution first started with formaldehyde and hydrogen cyanide. They interacted in this reducing atmosphere, and electrical lightning and energy from the hydrocarbon, and so this was converted into the chemical energy of bonds, and sugars, amino acids, and nitrogenous bases were formed in the prebiotic soup. So these molecules interacted among themselves and formed nucleic acid, carbohydrate chains, and proteins. And suddenly one single molecule, it acquired the ability to replicate itself, and it became the first living entity. And this signified the end of chemical evolution and the beginning of biological evolution. This idea is known as biopoiesis, the process of living matter evolving from self-replicating but non-living molecules. So the proof of this came from the experiment of Miller and Urey. So they made a particular apparatus like this. In this apparatus, there was a chamber, and in that chamber, hydrogen, ammonia, water vapor, methane, they were there, and electrical plugs spark was given constantly for weeks. It was given. Then these hot gases were condensed by flowing cold water. They were condensed into liquids, and they came, and it was sampled over here. Samples were taken out for analysis, and water was heated over here, and this steam came, and this water vapor, they came over here. So basically this mimicked the condition of primitive atmosphere. And Miller and Urey, they found that Miller and Urey, they found that surprisingly, in their analysis, they found glycine, an amino acid, to be formed from simple compounds like water vapor, ammonia, methane, and hydrogen in the reducing atmosphere, and electrical lightning. They found alanine. They found several amino acids, and so this was proof that of the chemical origin of life. So you could see alanine and glycines, aminobutyric acid, and all these compounds were found. Then the second proof was the Murchison meteorite analysis. It was a large meteorite that fell to Earth near Murchison in Victoria, in Australia. It is one of the most studied meteorites due to its mass. And in that meteorite, what was found in that meteorite, you could find glycine and alanine. These amino acids were formed. Proof of origin of chemical origin of life. Then the important part is formation of simple organic, the second step in the Oparin-Haldane theory. So amino acids, how amino acids were formed. It has been that we are talking about chemogeny. Amino acids arose under primitive conditions from aldehydes. From aldehydes. So you had methane, ammonia, all these primitive compounds fusing under the reducing atmosphere, and it formed hydrogen cyanide. And they also formed formaldehyde. This is Strecker's synthesis. How does it go? These are the steps. These are the steps of Strecker's synthesis. So cyanide molecules, then they react among themselves under the reducing conditions, and they form the compound known as glycine. The amino acid glycine is formed. Glycine then can react with formaldehyde and form serine, another amino acids. So this is how different amino acids are formed. Sugar from formaldehyde, they fuse together, and through this glycol aldehyde, through chemical reaction, they start to form these aldose sugars. Similarly, nucleotides can also be formed from the hydrogen cyanide. Fatty acids were also formed from ethylene molecules. They esterified and formed fatty acids. So these amino acids condensed together and formed dipeptides and protein molecules and peptide molecules. Carbohydrates fuse to form disaccharides and polysaccharides. Lipids formed long lipid chains. Now, what are proteinoids? Now, discussion on Oparin Haldane fourth step. We talked about the 3 steps. Proteinoids. Sidney Fox and his colleagues did this experiment. They found proteins or microspheres. So proteinoids are thermal proteins. They are protein-like cross-linked molecules formed abiotically from amino acid. A slightly altered definition of proteinoids is from Hayakawa et al. 1967. What it says, macromolecular preparation of mean molecular weights in the thousands containing most of the 20 amino acids found in protein hydrolysates. Although these polymers have other properties of contemporary protein as well, identity with the latter is not a necessary interference. So Sidney Fox proposed the hypothesis that proteinoids were the precursors for the first living cells. So Fox and Dose in 1972 they reported that at temperature of 150 to 180 degrees centigrade, dry mixtures of amino acid could yield peptide-like products with molecular weight between 4,000 to 10,000 Dalton. He called these polymers as pre-proteins or proteinoids. The proteinoids have been shown to have non-random composition as studied by sedimentation and electrophoresis. Hence, there are preferential interaction between amino acids and proteinoid formation. So, there are certain properties common to proteinoids and biologically synthesized proteins. Same range of molecular weight, same range of solubility, precipitability with similar reagent, and it is susceptible to proteolytic enzymes. So when they are present in certain concentration in an aqueous solutions, these proteinoids they form small microspheres. This is because some of the amino acids incorporated into proteinoid chains are more hydrophobic than the others. So if they are more hydrophobic than the others, they go towards the center. And so the proteinoids clustered together like droplets of oil in water. These structures exhibit a few characteristics of living cells. These microspheres has got an outer wall, it has got osmotic swelling and shrinking. There are phenomena like budding present, binary fission is present, streaming movements of internal particles, certain lifelike characters were found. So Fox thought that the microspheres may have provided a cell compartment within which organic molecules could have become concentrated and protected from the outside during the process of chemical evolution. So they said that they formed small compartments uh, where different organic molecules have became concentrated and protected from the outside environment during the process of chemical evolution. Other important, there were some enzyme activities present. Proteinoids can split some molecules by hydrolysis and can catalyze sequential reactions and condensation of nucleotides. They can remove amino or carboxyl groups of several molecules. Some of these proteinoids also exhibit hormone-like activities. So Fox also reported that proteinoids are rich in lysine and microparticles of polyadenine and can polymerize phenylalanine to di and tripeptide in the presence of ATP. He called them as proto-ribosomes or ribosomes. So what was the first molecule, whether it was RNA or DNA? So the thing was that who are going to be the first molecules? The molecule must have, first thing, it should have genetic. It should be able to store genetic, so-called genetic information. RNA has got this capability. Secondly, it should have enzymatic activities. Discovery of ribozyme by Thomas Cech, that they showed that RNA has got uh, RNA has got enzymatic activity, and thus RNA can it serves as a template as well as an enzyme. It serves as genetic material, and so RNA was considered to be the first genetic material. But these were the certain things in the RNA which people need to read. And then the last thing part of it is that we talk about coacervates. What are coacervates? So coacervates is a unique type of electrostatically driven liquid phase separation, and it results from association of oppositely charged ions. The term coacervate is sometimes used to refer to spherical aggregates of colloidal droplets held together by hydrophobic forces. These coacervate droplets can measure from 1 to 100 meters across, while their soluble precursors are typically on the order or less than 200 nanometer. It comes from the Latin word means to assemble together or to cluster. The process of coacervation was proposed by Alexander Oparin and J.B.S. Holden as crucial in his early theory of abiogenesis. This theory proposed that metabolism predated information replication. Although the discussion as to whether metabolism or molecules capable of template replication came first in the origin of life remains open for decades. So this was actually held for a very long time. Then these structures were investigated by the Dutch chemist De Jong in 1932. So a wide variety of solutions can give rise to them. For example, coacervates form spontaneously when a disordered polypeptide such as gelatin reacts with another biologically derived polyelectrolyte such as gum arabic. They are interesting not only in that they provide locally segregated environment, but also in their boundaries allow the selective absorption of simple organic molecules from the surrounding medium. For example, a mix of carbohydrate solution with a protein solution will favor the spontaneous formation of amoeba-like coacervates, which can change shape, merge, divide, form vacuole, release vacuole components, and show other lifelike properties. So in Oparin's view, this amounts to elementary form of metabolism. Bernal's clay theory, British scientist Bernal commented that they are nearest we can come to cells introducing any biological or at any rate any living biological substance. However, the lack of any mechanism by which coacervates can reproduce leaves them far short of being living systems. So we talked about the RNA world hypothesis already. So precursor, monomer synthesis, monomers, polymerization, polymers, from polymers ribozymes were made, recombination take place, recombinase, ribozymes again catalyze the polymerization, and ribozymes also catalyzed precursors. So this was the RNA world hypothesis. Then some scientists like Andrus uh, gave the protein interaction world hypothesis, where they suggested that life emerged as self-reproducing and expanding set of molecular interactions in hydrothermal, volcanic, marine environments. The key players of these interactions were proteins and RNA-like molecules which generated interactions representing a memory of protein interactions. So some RNA-like molecules and proteins, they retained memory, they had memory. In this view, the critical aspect of living system is the reproduction of molecular interactions and not necessarily the local reproduction of molecules. So starting from pores of rocks, enclosing sets of interactions, life evolved by building independent lipid membranes, creating early forms of cellular membrane. Conquering less friendly environment, they led to the emergence of structures and expansion of the form of the information system of protocells. So on the clay molecules, these proteins aggregated together and they formed these protocells. Cells with cellular organelle structures and DNA-based RNA interaction emerged as dominant life forms. So RNA came later, they say. So with this, I essentially finish today's class. And if you people have questions, this is the time to answer. For me to ask, I will answer. Anybody has any questions?